Hey y'all, I am over here doing my vision board and I wanted to just have some footage of me actually putting it together so you can see what I normally do, how I normally do it. I gave you a recap of how I normally kick things off and before I start, so now you're going to actually see me putting it together. So here is a little snippet of me just organizing because I like to put it in categories. But you can sit here and watch me cut some things up and move things around like a puzzle piece before I actually finalize exactly where it's going to be and do my final touches. So here we go. I don't do mine all in one day. I like to split mine up and kind of do it as I feel drawn to it and feel connected to what I'm actually put on the board. So I let this be a whole experience so it's truly authentic to me and where I see myself going and the vision I have for my life at this point in my life. So I let it just organically flow. And when I do that, I find that I am drawn to these things and these things organically manifest itself in my life throughout the year and years. So yeah, I encourage you not to rush through it and just to enjoy the experience and explore and see what you're drawn to, what pulls at you, and have that reflected on your board. All right. And I'm moving from vision board to intentions. So it is my vision, but a lot of this is how I'm going to achieve that. So it's around my intentions. So I'll talk more about that later. Enjoy me putting it together. Me, I don't know. I've been that way, but I don't like the whole one trick pony thing. Like, I think it's important to be able to have many different avenues of being able to earn income, because you just never know. Jobs are so finicky. One minute they praising you, the next minute they throwing you under the bus, they putting you out, they done lost money, and then you out here, and if all you know how to do is one thing, then you limit yourself. That's how I see it. So you got to build. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. You gotta be marketable. And to be marketable, you gotta have some skill sets. You gotta have something to bring to the table. You gotta be an asset, not a liability. So I've made great progress. I'm pretty much almost done cutting out all the things. I only got one more page left. This was on the last page, but I wanted to cut out this one first because this keeps me motivated, because this is what season I'm in. And this season I've been in for a while, but I'm really going for it. And I'm going to take full control over it and not be afraid and stand firm and go for it. Take small steps and make big leaps and going for it. So this is a book that I've had for a while. My mom bought it for me years ago. It's called Lead from the Outside. So I'm going to actually read it this year. It's been on my bookshelf for maybe 2 years now, if not more. If I'm not mistaken, I have to look at when it came out, but she got it for me when it came out. And this is Stacey Abrams. I've been following her for a while. She's been on my radar for a while, and Mom blessed me with her book. So this is the year I'm finally going to crack it open and read it. I've been learning a bit more about her over the years, and I've definitely been drawn to her and just her courage and her determination and her resilience and persistence for justice, for truth, for equality and equity when it comes to resources and access. And that speaks to who I am and how I lead in the space that I lead in healthcare, and all the things I want to do with my career, and moving more into full-time into policy instead of just part-time doing policy with committees and boards. I want to do full-time health policy. And so this is really important for me to include on my board, because it's not only a vision of mine, it's an intention. And this is where the direction that I'm going in. So this is where I want to be. And so all the steps that I make will lead me to where I want to be. And so I wanted to make sure that I printed this out and have this captured on my board. And you'll see a theme that permeates throughout my board once I show you it and give you a nice preview when I'm all ready. But this is where I put it. Put it right here, right above public health law, I should say, public health law, because that's where my focus has been over the years, public health policy. And so diving deeper into that, and I want to work in that space again, full time. So that's my vision, that's my intention, that's the direction I'm going in. And if you know me, then you know, when I put my mind to something, I make it happen, I achieve it. And there's nothing that will stop me other than myself and my doubt. So I'm going for it. I'm going to make it happen. And I'm speaking to myself first, and y'all get the benefit of me speaking to myself. But that's what's happening. And I'm glad that I sat down and did this, because I needed to see it. I need to see it to have clear direction on where I want to go. So I got more to do, but I'm going to end here for tonight because I'm tired. It's like 12:40 in the morning. It's 12:40 in the morning. That's me and my big brother Dilshan. It's us on the screensaver. So have a good night. Until tomorrow. Night. Live well. Hey y'all, I'm back. This is officially I want to say it's the 4th day that I've been working on my vision/intention board for the season in my life. I was going to say 2025, but it's more so this season. Definitely I'll be achieving these things this year, but there is really the path that I'm going on, the direction that I'm going in at this time, this season in my life. So my vision and intention board is complete as far as the placement of all of this imagery that I have here, all the things that I've cut out that represent the direction I'm going in and what I desire for myself at this time and my intentions for myself. So it's major, it's massive. I'm gonna do things a little differently this leg of my journey. But the first thing that I wanted to do, like I do every year for the most part, is get everything that's been in here and in here and in here out here so I can visually see it. And that's what makes it a vision board. I enjoy this process. I was just talking to my mom last night as I was working on it and as I was recording. I love this part of the process because I'm a creative at heart. And I can't draw like my kids. They can sketch, they can draw. They're gifted at that. They get that from their father. But I am great at being able to see something and then put it out into the world. But it might not be me drawing it, but I can pull it from different sources and have a snapshot of the great visual. So I'm still in awe of how it came together and how it represents me at the core and what I desire for myself at this time in my life. And I told my mom, like at the top of this year, I'm like, I didn't have any time to sit down and do my vision/intention board. So I felt incomplete. I felt like there was something missing. And I think for me, it's the fact that so much goes on up here. I have a very busy brain with a lot of different aspirations and desires and goals and all the things. I want to do all the things. I want to accomplish all the things. And I don't like to let anything hold me back. So I absolutely have to be intentional and take time outside of work and my kids and taking care of everybody else and helping jobs meet their mission to just get in tune and touch with myself and make sure that I am setting my own mission, my own North Star statement for where I am at this leg of the journey and making sure I accomplish things for myself first or in tandem with others. But I have to make sure that I'm filled because I cannot, as we all know, pour from an empty cup. And so this gives me a nice boost and I enjoy it. So let's dive into what I have. I might not show every little thing, but just the essence of what I got going on and what my next steps are. All right, so I give a quick pan of my board just so you can see a nice visual of all the things I put on here and its placement as I talk through it. Okay, so what is on my board is content or visuals of the different areas in my life that I am prioritizing to improve upon so that way I can be a more healed and whole version of myself at this part in my journey. And so up at the corner over here, it's a snapshot of how I desire healthy friendships and healthy partnerships with some amazing women and human beings. So I have things on here such as different is beautiful. So I am somebody who I can make friends with anybody from all different types of walks of life. It doesn't matter the color of their skin. I've always been that way. I connect with people based on our stories, and actually our differences is what draws me to people. It intrigues me about their experiences, their cultures, their upbringing, and I like finding the uniqueness in people's stories and how we have similarities, but how the differences are so beautiful and intriguing. So that's me to the core. I see that there's unfortunately, so much division amongst the human population in general, the human species in general, but definitely amongst some women. And so I have women highlighted here in this section where it's something that says women support women. There is strength in sisterhood. There's strength in sisterhood. Beauty has no skin tone. Different is beautiful. Let us lift each other up. the bravest thing you can be is yourself. And I have like a high five right next to it. So it's us uplifting ourselves as we uplift one another. I always say I look forward to linking arms with people and moving work forward. So more of that. That's a priority of mine. Developing healthy relationships, strengthening my current relationships, making sure those are healthy, but not putting too much pressure on them being healthy. Just like letting things organically happen, and the right people find their place in my life, and the people that we don't gel well with, or they serve their purpose in my life during that time, and I've served my purpose in their life during that time or season, it's okay to part ways, right? So that's what that area is for, like relationships, healthy partnerships, so we can just continue to rock this thing out together. But the top center of my poster is the books that I want to read this year. And the plan that I'm going to actually implement this year is one that I've been hearing about, and I've been, scanning the internet and audiobooks, learning about it. But this year I'm actually going to put it to work, be intentional by putting it to work. So I'll get more into that. But some of the books that I want to read this year, and it could be listening to them audibly or actually getting a physical book and reading them. Atomic Habits, that's one I've been hearing about over the years. I want to say I know it's by James Clear, but the one thing that I remember about this book that I've been hearing about over the year that I pull from all the time is improving your behaviors and habits by 1% every day. So for me, I take that as taking small steps in a direction to being your best self. So progress over perfection, building on top of habits, like habit stacking and all of that. From my recollection, that comes from Atomic Habits. And so I've been, again, hearing it from different podcasters over the years. And this year, I actually want to read it myself, so I can have the full scope of the message that he put in that book. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Again, I've gotten some lessons from that book, but I want to just sit with that more on my own and see what I pull from it, because it may be different or similar to what I've already heard about. Ask the Right Question. That one came across and it intrigued me because I'm somebody that asks tons of questions. I want to ask questions that will invoke powerful conversations that have the power to shift things in a direction that will improve the overall health and well-being of our community, of the patients that we serve, and our broader community and the public's health. So I want to see what I pull from that book. The title alone intrigued me. The book doesn't look appealing, but the title intrigued me, and it speaks to who I am. So I want to read that. Never Eat Alone. That book was suggested to me by my executive director that I work with at the job that I work for. So I want to read that one because he suggested that one. Because over the past 4 years, once I had this traumatic experience that I had that rocked me at the core and sent me into this massive chronic depression, I went from being like this extreme extrovert to this introvert who no longer trusted people. And that was completely against my nature. And so now I find that I'm relearning how to trust people, how to start relationships and conversations. So I want to dive into that book, Never Eat Alone. Okay, so this top right corner of my board, it's, I want to say, one of the most powerful parts of my board, because first of all, it starts with Michelle Obama right in the corner of the board. And I mentioned this earlier in the video, but her quote I've held on to for the past couple of years at this point. I want to say it's been at least 2 years. But I, again, keep it for myself. And then I also teach my kids and my staff I manage a clinic, and the clinical staff that is there, I have quite a few that have been there for a long time. So I tend to operate through the lens of constantly growing and developing skills and moving up and advancing, and open yourselves up to opportunities. And so her saying goes, practice every day. Practice who you want to be every single day. So again, going to the atomic habits, that all of that ties in for me, the progress over perfection. Like, you don't just wake up one day and all of a sudden you are exactly who you want to be. It really does take small increment changes, adding things in, not necessarily worried about taking things out, because as you add things in, naturally those things will, I like to say, dissipate. Like, you'll see them fall off because you will go more in one direction, and where you used to be or what you used to be into or what you used to desire, you no longer have that desire. So moving in a direction slowly but surely. Sometimes in some seasons you move a little faster, but nonetheless, every day you wake up and make a decision that I want to move in this direction. So that direction can look like, for nutrition, I want to increase what I'm eating that's going to benefit me in the long run. So whatever that looks like for you, fruits, vegetables, grains, proteins, omega-3s, like all the things. It could look like I'm going to add in healthier behaviors and do away with unhealthy behaviors. So I'm going to look for ways to add in things like, for instance, for me, I'm going to add in more reading. And as I add in more reading, I'll do less TV watching. So that's an example. So like right now, the TV's on, but because I am more intrigued, and I have been stuck to that couch for years now after that event happened, and it kind of threw my whole world around. My comfort zone became my couch, and my house became my safety. Not the house, but the couch and the TV and my podcast, all the YouTube, like that became my day-to-day. That's where I found my relief. That's where I found my safety. That's where I found my joy. And so slowly but surely, me having the desire, my desire for what I want in my life was much greater than my desire to stay glued to my couch and not go after things. So therefore, I start making small changes. I start going for jobs. I start going for committees and for boards and for opportunities to network and attend presentations and lectures and all the things that I'm drawn to, because I have this great desire of where I want to be right now in this season of my life, on this leg of my journey. And so as I start going more in that direction towards those things that I have a desire for, that I feel like I'm drawn to because I have bigger goals that I'm reaching for, I start watching less TV. Now the TV still come on. I ain't completely going away from TV. And I don't know if I ever will be, but I'm not going to hold myself either way, whether I will or won't be. I just know at this part of my life, I'm noticing that I do have my moments where I like to put up my feet, watch me some good comedy, some laughs, the hee hee ha ha's, watch people do the things I have a desire to do, like being on a cruise, which I'm going to get on one. And that's what's on my TV right now, aka Adventures. Hey, y'all, if y'all ever watch this, aka Adventures. But the more I move in that direction and I add and I go after the things I have a desire to do that are essentially more healthier for me and help me be more into my full self, I will produce and manifest my full self by being more into my life. I'll be less into the couch. I'll be less into my bed. I'll be less into the TV. Right? So that's that point that I'm making there. So what she's saying, it's so simple, but it is life-changing. practice who you want to be every day. And then I have some other sayings around that, because what goes hand in hand with practicing who you want to be every day, who you've been all your years on this earth so far, is who you've been. So I'm 38, about to be 39 this year, which is wild. But it's who I've been, but I'm not tied to who I've been. I've been progressing and shifting and changing all my life, for real, right? Because if we're not changing, we're stuck. If we're not changing, we're not living. And so I've been shifting and been developing and moving in the direction of who I want to become for a very long time. I had a season of being stuck, and I've slowly but surely been getting unstuck. And so I've just been going for things little by little. So that long explanation there is so you guys can see some examples of how that looks in practice, like an example from my experience. As we move down into this area, let's say the lower right quadrant, the lower right quadrant of my board, this is all about public health, policy, health laws. This is the kind of work that I do. I've been in healthcare on and off since the age of 18. I feel like that's my little elevator pitch that I normally give when I'm sharing my career. On and off healthcare. I spent a couple of years in the education field when we lived in South Korea. But since I was 18, the majority of my career has been in healthcare. First starting in direct care, like indirect care, taking care of patients. And very early on at the age of 18, I realized that there was a disconnect between the people who are at the top making the decisions, the executives, and the people who are actually boots on the ground doing the work, taking care of patients. And so my journey has been me going back to school, getting all type of degrees, all type of certifications, all type of trainings. I feel like I've been a long-term lifer with education, learning all the things I need to learn to move up the ranks so that way I can be one day at the table, making the decisions and helping the people who are making decisions, like informing their decision making. And I want to say last year or the year before, I came to the realization like, you actually achieved that goal that you set out to achieve when you were 18, 19 years old, when you decided to go back to school for healthcare administration and wanting to shift the culture within organizations and shift the mindsets of people in leadership roles. And I wind up doing a lot more than that in different capacities. And I did not realize it until it just came to me one day, like, you beating yourself up so much. You're thinking you're not getting there. You feel like you're just constantly going, but you're never getting there. But it's really because you haven't sat down to think about, let me assess where I am on this goal. Let me assess where I am in my journey. What have I done so far? What have I accomplished? What have been my small wins and my big wins and my mediocre wins? But guess what? A win is a win. Who said that? Was that LeBron? Was that LeBron? Was it LeBron? I want to say LeBron said a win is a win. Somebody said a win is a win. I feel like it's Bron. But a win is a win. No matter how small, how mediocre, how grand, a win is a win is a win is a win. And so I realized I accomplished that goal. And as I went on that journey of accomplishing that goal, a lot was unveiled. And my goal is still there because it's different levels. It's a lot of different things connected to the healthcare field. A lot of different things. And during my time going for my master's degree, I shifted to policy because I realized what moves and stops things, what can make things go and make things stop that ultimately impact our health and well-being is policy and law, public policy and laws that impact health and how health is administered. And all the different many facets of healthcare and all the things that are attached to it. And so public health law is very important to me. It's the direction that I'm in, and I'm going in, and I want to do that full time going forward. So that is what this area is right here on my board. All the things. Advocacy I've been doing for a very long time, years upon years. Actually, advocacy is who I am at the core. I've been an advocate since I was little. Stood up to people, whether it was family members, people in school, whoever was causing harm, who was taking advantage of their position of power. It doesn't matter. Like, being an advocate is who I am at the core, like in all the different facets of my life, whether it was teachers or classmates or, colleagues and leaders, is who I am at the core. And I have this great desire and need to help people lift their voices. I used to say that I was a voice for the voiceless. Yes, that was at a certain point in time, but my advocacy has changed over the decades as I continue to step more into who I am, which is helping people find their voice. So my voice isn't always centered in the conversation. So that's the shift of that journey. But advocacy has been at the core of who my very being is from, I want to say, the beginning. I feel like that's who I was made to be, an advocate, no matter what space I occupy. So that's what this area is for. Advocacy, social justice, public health policy, public health law. That's me in a nutshell. Right, and now the lower left quadrant is all about, this might be the most important part of the board. I know I've said that a couple of different areas. All this stuff is important. It's all important. But I want to say it's probably the most important part, the most important section of the board, even though it's the lower left quadrant. I should have probably had it up, but the way the pictures look, it makes sense for it to be down. But I knew from a very early age that I had what is called OCD, but I thought it was early age, being a teenager. I thought that, and at that time I didn't know to the extent of what OCD was, but my basic understanding of OCD, when I learned about OCD when I was a teenager, I was like, oh yeah, I have OCD. I can tell just with me wanting to have things a certain way, and it was more around like cleanliness and trying to prevent things that are out of your control. That's essentially what OCD is. But I didn't have all that language when I was younger. So I knew my version of OCD, of what it was, based off of my limited understanding at the time, which was around cleanliness. Cleanliness, preventing disease, preventing infections, preventing rodents and insects and bugs and clutter and odors, like, as you can see how my face is turning up. So that's what I thought, I thought I knew all there was at that time. And at that time, I knew what I needed to know. So when I went through a traumatic event that happened in 2021, my OCD got heightened to another level, and it shifted to what is called religious scrupulosity. They say religious or scrupulosity OCD. I just say religious scrupulosity OCD. So there's many different types of OCD. Mine is religious scrupulosity OCD. And essentially, without going too deep in it, it's basically having an unhealthy mindset towards your relationship with God and how God views you. And so when this traumatic event happened, it caused a break. It caused me to have PTSD. These are all the things they diagnosed me with. OCD, originally they didn't know what it was, and so they diagnosed me with a whole bunch of things. But the chronic depression, the anxiety, all of that was associated with the PTSD and the OCD. So this lower quadrant of the board is me taking care of me internally, mentally. So there's a book that my therapist, I see a psychotherapist, and the book that my therapist recommended is called Brain Lock. And it is a book for individuals living with OCD and how to break free from the all the burdens and chains that you place on yourself based on the, how can I say, the distorted viewpoints and perspectives you have when it comes to OCD, whatever form of OCD you have. Again, mine is the one that I'm experiencing now is the religious scrupulosity. And so I've been working through that over the past few years in tandem with different type of therapists. And so that's what this part of the board is about. It literally has an individual breaking chains. And so this breaking chains represent the chains that's here mentally and then also generationally. So any generational chains that have been placed on my family or we placed on ourselves. My family has struggled with addiction, abuse, all different type of things. And so breaking those chains, those generational curses that they call, things that hinder your growth and prosperity in life. That's what this part of the board is for. And I also got some things in there about nutrition, health and well-being, because I was a health and wellness coach and educator for a very long time. That's actually been the biggest part of my journey in healthcare, in addition to being an advocate and working directly with patients. It's been around nutrition, health and well-being. So holistic healing is a big part of that board. Financial freedom. The lower left quadrant of my board probably should have been at the center of the board, because when you're not well internally, all the other things around you is hard to even accomplish and see. But I will tell you, doing a little bit each day helped me break out of that chronic depression that I was in. And what helped me break out of it, honestly, was watching tons of YouTube channels, things that made me laugh and find joy when I had no expression of emotion and I couldn't laugh. And eventually I found that again, out of that heaviness and that restriction. And I'm doing this because of the chains of depression. And so that's what that part of the board is. That one weighs a little bit more heavier on me. So it's not as always easy to talk about so fluidly like the other parts of the board. Because that one has been extremely life-changing. But I feel like I'm getting on the other side of it 3 years later. Or now it's 4 years later. So I feel like that's a blessing and a major win. That's a major win. All right.